Knowledge and practice. Knowledge is an object of pride, but it should be used to increase one's courage. Knowledge is useless if it is not dressed up in the form of practice. बिसरिए इल्म फायदा नेस्त हरगाह की दर अमल न यारी चू बर न कशी बरुए दुश्मन bekar hazar tekdari, which means a lot of knowledge is useless if you do not put it into practice. It is useless to have 1,000 swords if you do not draw it out in front of the enemy. Brother, I did not pay attention to this thing when I came to the field of practice. The reason was that I did not have so much leisure to start licking, that is, reading the pages of the books. If one of my legs is weak, then I use the other leg to do the work of both. But those who are only interested in knowledge have a strong leg, but it does not support the other. So the blame of lameness comes. And if it is said that they have only one leg, then the matter will reach the level of joke. If you do not have the sense, that is understanding, to practice it yourself, then the work can be done with my sense, understanding, for which attachment, that is love, is needed. If a person develops passion, that is emotion, towards the one who creates attachment, that is attraction, in thought, then love also starts. We should learn this thing in its real state from the people of devotion, and we should extract its essence from it. If we can get even one good thing from a child, we should adopt it. There are many beneficial methods, but people try them for 2 or 4 days and then leave them. Sit on any one and then enjoy it. A murderer finds his own way to escape. He does not go around asking, else his methods of defense may get revealed. A criminal tries to hide his crime. It does not matter whether the thing is good or bad. What matters is that he himself takes part in his defense. Therefore, people should think about it themselves. The solution will be found very near. But until the person is not wounded, others will not worry about the treatment. Knowledge is that which makes one recognize God. What is the use of knowledge which takes one away from God? Brother, I will call it alam only. This word is actually wrong and it is used by illiterate and jugglers, that is, show performers. People who do jantar mantar, who are jahil, illiterate, say alam instead of ilm. So, in deceiving others or deceiving oneself, or getting oneself worshipped, or preaching such things which one does not practice himself, etc., this art I have called alam. And alim be amal, that is, scholar without practice, and kabil be kabul. This phrase is my own creation. Its meaning is a learned and intelligent person, but one who is not accepted by God. A fraud who sells barley by showing it as wheat. Everyone knows about alam and not ilm. What is the use of that knowledge which does not inspire one to recognize God? Even jackals howl and a cock crows in the morning. I think it is clear. I mean, I am not familiar with religious knowledge, although it can be learned by studying in 1 year. But at the same time, I am also thinking that why should I not spend this time in the making of you people and in fulfilling my duty so that Ishwar, that is God, is also happy? And brother, the truth is that I degraded myself so much that the scholars started considering me ignorant, and unnecessarily I started feeling the lack of knowledge in myself. The reason for this can also be that I had to praise others in this way and keep them happy. Otherwise, it can also be said that I do not lack knowledge because Guru Maharaj has transmitted his knowledge to me and could have been transmitted to anyone in his name. Yes, it is possible that the technical words or jargon may not be there. It will be a big thing, and I should not even say this. But for some reason, it is necessary to write this so that people read and learn the Vedas from me. Then the greatness of my Guru Maharaj will be known, and that nothing that he could not do. कीड़ों ने हजारा किताबें खा ली, पाई न मगर फजीलत की सनद, बड़प्पन का प्रमाण पत्र, which means insects ate thousands of books, but still it did not get the certificate of greatness. I have been writing for many days so that it may serve as a lamp for a lost traveler. The result is in God's hands. I will write anyway. I have never tried to attain Brahmagyan. I have tried to recognize my Guru all my life. So it is possible that knowledgeable people or scholars may not like it. But, brother, I do not deviate from the truth even for a moment, and neither are my writings devoid of it. Some are worried about the end, that is, day of Pralay, and I am worried that whatever I have should be taken away by someone. If someone is ready to do this, then I will understand that I have been forgiven, because in such a situation, I will be able to free myself from a lot of debt to the Guru. I do not have the capability to make someone exactly like me, and it is possible that I may not be able to do so. Only my Guru Maharaj has this capability. But at the same time, I definitely want to find someone to whom I can express my feelings. God will provide. I do hope. We'll take a pause. Uh, okay, I'll proceed. One thing is very important, that whatever progress has been made in the world has been made only by the power of observation. Hence, in this spiritual science, the more the practitioner increases his power of observation, the more knowledge of nature he will acquire. And I also enjoy training such a person. Now, what is the method for this? All educated people know this, but when I tell someone to increase the power of observation and experience, he says that he tries but does not get experience. I do not understand what kind of effort is that which does not give the desired results. When we think about our household matters, then even its smallest things are understood very well. The thing is that we get completely involved in it, so much so that we do not feel at peace until we find its solution, because that pain is in the heart. When an abhyasi keeps his condition in mind and observes it, then it is not possible that an educated person will not understand it. If one keeps practicing it with complete focus, ekagrachit, on every condition, then it is not possible that observation will not give real experience. But, brother, all these things depend on interest. Hobby, that is interest, is also a great teacher. फासला कूचाए जाना, कना मुझसे पूछो, जैसा मुश्ताक हो, नजदीक भी है, दूर भी है. Which means, do not ask me about the distance to the beloved street. He is near or far, according to the amount of passion, that is, yearning or desire, one has for him. It's quoted from a letter from an Abbasi. So, yeah, that's the end of it.
Yeah. I've read the Hindi thing twice. It's almost 100%. same sense is conveyed, and translation
Yes.
is good.
So I'll open the today's thought.
Yeah. So we'll just summarize. The main points which I could gather is that one is knowledge. If you can't put it into use, it's of no use. And knowledge which does not give you the knowledge of God is useless, he says. And that is one point. He says ilm should is education. Urdu word it's ilm should
Hmm.
lead you to the knowledge of God. Anything else is of no use. He says it's just like having a sword, but if you don't take the sword when the enemy comes, it's useless. It will not protect you.
Hmm.
Then he talks about alam. That means people who don't have the condition or who don't have the knowledge of God, they talk about God. He uses the word alam for that. I mean, there are so many frauds going around, and then he talks about that. And then third thing is power of observation. He says any sensible person, if he tries to read his condition, he can easily read his condition. He can comprehend the condition, mental condition very easily. And
Hmm.
if you're not able to comprehend, that means you're not interested to, or you don't have the passion to observe properly. So your
Hmm.
approach is lackadaisical. You're not sincere in your approach, because he gives the
Right.
example of people when their household
Household.
problems like health issues or any repair of house and all that, till it is solved,
Hmm.
they will not take sleep. They'll not sleep also. They'll be continuously trying to solve those problems. The same
Hmm.
attitude, if it is, if you have, then you'll be able to study your mental state very easily. That's what it says. And power of observation is necessary for spiritual progress. You'll understand nature, because spiritual Brahma Vidya is actually a kind of a secret or a mystery. By reading books, by listening to talks, it will not happen. You will come to know only in meditation and contemplation, and then developing love for God, and an intense aspiration to know your true nature, realize yourself. uh, that is there, and in that this power of observation is required. Then only the secrets of nature are revealed to you. So and each person has to try for himself. He gives the example of a thief or a murderer who tries to escape. He'll find his own way. So
Right.
each person has to find his own way to probe that mystery, or uh, reach the objective. The thief's objective
Hmm.
is to uh, prevent himself getting caught. Here, our objective is to realize our divine nature. So you have to do it
Hmm.
yourself, and for that, power of
Correct.
observation and is required to understand that secret or whatever.
Hmm.
Subtle reality is very tough to know. It cannot even be conceived by thinking. Also, no, that's
Hmm.
the main idea.
Correct.
Okay, we'll read today's. Anybody wants to comment on this? This is the second reading we are doing. Last Sunday also we read the same thing in Hindi.
So, just thought of
Yeah,
one last line, I think, of this topic. Uh, brother, I think we have used word passion, but that is Hindi word of that is junoon.
Junoon,
Yeah.
Junoon,
So,
Junoon, Jazba, all
uh,
this
correct.
uh, uh, uh,
Uh, so
mean
this
similar idea.
word
Huh?
this mushtaq word basically is from where it is coming. Mushtaq is
Mm,
eagerness, wanting to know, yearning, desire.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's what that word mushtaq meant. So that's how it is transformed to
correct.
passion.
Even passion is an intense emotion actually, and
Correct.
till that that will make you move and accomplish things. Like
Mm,
people who are succeeded in material or spiritual life,
mm,
in the economic field, in the business field or in sports field or in arts field, whatever field, unless they have a passion for that job, they cannot succeed. Especially we see this in the field of sports. They're willing to undergo extreme discipline and troubles and then but the passion for the success or passion to master that sports or that art or whatever makes them succeed actually. So,
Yeah.
so that word, he uses the word yearning and then craving, yearning, all those things convey a force which arises in your system, which finds its own way actually. And as long that that is there, you cannot relax. You will feel uncomfortable when that passion rises in you. Just like this again, which I've read in the autobiography of Lalaji Maharaj, published by his granddaughter and all that. They talk about. He says, like a snake is there which is hibernating in winter, and when the sun comes and it wakes up, it is hungry, and it will not rest till it catches a prey and eats. In the same way, the sexual passion also, when it is aroused, your mind will become mad till it is satisfied. You will not think of anything else. So passion is like that force. Once it comes, unless it is satisfied, you cannot take rest. So the idea of passion conveys this kind of a yearning or craving actually. So that can be cultivated by, he says you can imitate. You imitate a mad person, you'll become mad. This can be cultivated actually. In other words, it's called love also. He says in love, you continuously think of your beloved. So you reverse the process, you continuously think about God or the master, then automatically it leads to love. So passion also can be cultivated actually. If you're intellectually done analysis of life and then you read master's literature and then you come to know that when he says that if you have that condition of balance, you would not like to part with that condition even for a minute. You would like to, you would don't mind your body being cut into 1,000 pieces, but you don't want to get part with that condition even for a second. So if you read those sentences, then intellectually you understand it. That intellect can guide you to develop passion, because Babuji is saying that it's worthwhile goal trying. So like that, if you contemplate, you can develop passion, because without that, you cannot succeed. So in this article, in the article, the another point is in all my writings, truth is also there. So any letter is writing to any Abhyasi, whatever, it will be helpful for us, because truth is coming out and then it will impact your heart and then think will. Vivek,
Yeah.
आज का डायरी से डालेंगे. What is today's message?
My restlessness lies in this, that you should continue to be restless to achieve the goal of attainment of the divine, which alone can give me real peace.
No, there is one seminar on this. No, we can read the seminar topic revered, sir. Just go through it again. There is a seminar topic on this.
Okay.
Meditation is not enough.
Okay, I'll find out.
So Babuji in this Tinsukia message says that people think that following the standard practices of meditation, cleaning, and that's all is enough. That is not enough. Development of love and devotion is the duty of the Abhyasi. They have to do it. Without that, and so meditation is not enough. That is the topic which is written.
Talk delivered in February 2004 on the
Is it
occasion of
better?
the seminar.
Yeah.
Meditation is not
much
enough.
better, brother.
Printed in Bodhayanti Parasparam Volume 4, Chapter 5.
Many Abhyasis are of the opinion. This, of course, was expressed by a few people also here in their notes, saying that this is not what we want. But anyway, I have written. Many Abhyasis are of the opinion that it is enough if they practice meditation, cleaning and prayer methods as advised by our master. Master himself has stated, and this was well brought out by C.V. Bodhayanti by quoting the article of Babuji Maharaj on Tinsukia. I think Master himself has stated that it is not enough if we just do meditation and follow the methods as advised, and we need to develop love and devotion to Master. However, in the many mails I receive, and also during the course of discussions and talks, many make me feel that they have done the routine practice as advised, and they need to get results from such a practice. This, of course, is true of people who are plus 55. These mails are invariably from people who are plus 55. They have got a notion that I have done whatever I'm supposed to do. And they have got also a feeling that they are following the command.
Out of the script is talking. Don't
The deeper understanding of those commandments.
Prasad, don't shift it. Some of it is out of the script.
No remark on anybody.
Just one
The
second. I'll go
assessment
back
problem
to
is
page
there. They have got to take into consideration the 20 days questionnaire before they assess themselves also. That's what we have already seen. Some gentlemen were kind enough to refer to that. It's a very interesting and a fairly common expectation. But there is much more than the routine meditative practice in the system advocated by our master, which we call Satyapada. The truth is that there is a lot more in authentically liberating and transformative spirituality in Satyapada than just meditation. What I call an authentic spirituality, it is not telling what is there in the book, what to fear. Fearlessness is an authentic spirituality. A person who has moved in the path of spirituality will never be apologetic about what he has got to say, because he will say what is the truth. Because for truth speaking, you require enormous courage. People who are afraid, people who are under the sway of fear, of anything for that matter, can never speak the truth. Anyway, the most important point to take into consideration is the way we spend the remaining period of time of the day when we do not actively do the meditational practices. Many of my friends and relatives even ask me as to why I meditate, and even suggest that much time need not be wasted like that. I used to think, why should I meditate at all? Why waste my time on this rather amusing exercise for sake of enlightenment or realization of what I really do not know. You really don't know what you are. It's a very amusing exercise that you are having. And while different, escape into the word nothingness, I wonder what my motivation is. What am I looking for, or even lacking, for that matter? To think that our system is all about meditation is to misunderstand it. Many of us think, even as our Western country brethren attracted to Eastern thought and practice, often make the mistake of seeing meditation in the narrowest sense of going into a quiet room and closing our eyes. In fact, there's a lot more to these things, both externally, internally, and ultimately. The process of spiritual development is an integral and holistic endeavor. The concept of constant remembrance in our system is more similar to the mindfulness of Buddhistic thought rather than the concept of bhajan that is popular in our country. And this is not the same as meditation. Constant remembrance can be practiced formally while sitting and while walking, or informally in whatever activity in which we may be engaged. Being present, wakeful, and efficient in all aspects and walks of our life, beaming with the awareness of the presence of the Master in the core of our being, is more important than any particular posture or set of words of prayer in which we are engaged. If we can't feel the Master in the core of our being, I do not think the practice constitutes. Whatever you do, how do we remember always Master, sir? Surely not through bhajan. Master is efficiency. Master is perfection. Master is light. Master is illumination. And that shall be expressed in our action, in our talk, in our walk. Then you can say, I am carrying the Master with me and I am in constant remembrance. Otherwise, I do not think you are in constant remembrance. This is very, very difficult because the authenticity is missing. Because the authenticity is missing, only what we may call some sort of a routine practices, trying to remember him. Whenever you don't have anything else, remember Babaji. Recite his name. That is not authentic spirituality. If you have got enlightened, you will not suffer. Because you are in the process of enlightenment, still you feel like that. Master has said that finally we find the ultimate in us, and adds further that it is ourselves. He wants us to understand that we are masters in essence, and that it is only the coverings that need to be removed to bring to light the true nature of ourselves. In fact, we are all masters by nature, and through sadhana, we only have to recognize and awaken to that fact. In reality, what we seek, we are. That realization is not far away. In future time or in another place. But in fact, is inseparable from samsara, the cycle of birth and death, governed by karma, and found hidden in the here and now. It is not the sun here, no. I feel my master. He is not far away in the Himalayas, far away in either Kailas or Vaikuntha. He is with us, feeling, be aware of. That's what Babuji says, right? In one of the things that is recorded in the book. What is the latest? Okay. Silence speaking. He says that the goal is very near you. Nay, it is you. The goal is not a far off thing. The goal is you. When you are purified, you are the goal. It is not somebody, some person far away, sitting somewhere, waiting, of course, with love. That is not the time. But if those people who use the word master, I'm afraid whether they really understand what exactly they are saying. That they seem to have projected the master out of their body and then try to bridge the gap through a very, very thin rope of what they are. It's a very thin rope they have. Seems to be so brittle that it will not carry their own weight. They are not spiders to walk through. They're really elephants trying to move in the fine thread with all their luggage. Not enough. Some elephants are catching their tails behind. They want to travel. Having projected him, we have to travel, isn't it? So when he is with you, where do you travel? The lives and teachings of our masters, Revered Dharwaad Maharaj, Revered Babuji Maharaj, Ishwar Sahayji, Saint Kasturi, Revered Kesiri, Revered Kumaraswamy, Revered Parasparam, and many more, apart from many tales in the classical enlightenment literature about karmically ripe individuals experiencing awakenings while engaged in all kinds of ordinary activities through this point more eloquently than any logic can. It is over 4 decades that I have been meditating for more than a minimum of 2 hours a day, and certain days over 8 hours. Strain in the physical realm was present in the initial days of practice, and it was all the time invigorating. The strain is something that has never made me feel bad about. It always made me more bold next day to attempt. As any person who does exercises knows that first few days are really strenuous, but later on it is invigorating. That exercise itself makes us move forward. The same thing is true here. So far as I understand, meditation is more about being than doing routine practice. Master has advised us to see or examine our condition after the routine practice of meditation for an hour, and also after the performance of purification processes and offering prayer. Each day, I was finding, after the influx of pranabhuti, there is introducing and unveiling of a new way of seeing, far beyond sitting or just keeping still. Yet I found on my part, there is inevitably some appropriate effort, intention, and attention involved. This is the way in which I try to own up my condition. That's what exactly I'm trying to put it here. There is no other way I am aware of by which we can go about the task of being with the master and be attentive to him. Meditation is called by master even as puja, as we may see in the commandment number 1. Yet, it is my experience of late that meditation is more of a listening to master than the usual supplicants or so-called submission to master. The voice of the master is more keenly heard when our submissions end and absolute silence in the presence of the Lord is maintained. So long as you are a slave of wishes, what is the difficulty? You can never get a dear God. I am but a slave of my wishes. What if? Last question, what if? It means you cannot hear him. Because you are asking him to hear you, and he is a very good listener. He is not a bad one who cuts you down and then answers. He has got enormous patience to listen us. And his time and our time is spent only in that. If we shut up our mouth, if we don't submit ourselves, and be satisfied with what we are, then we can start hearing. Then only the silence speaks. Surely this means that we have left the realm of desire, not to speak of seeking gratification of desire. Because majority of us are in this realm. Not only we have got desire, but we are also asking for gratification of that. Then the stage of intercommunion or receipt of authors arises. And in that blessed state, the individual mind, and in fact the entire internal apparatus is put off totally. If everything is put off, so what are you going to hear? If everything is put off with what eyes you are going to see, then when you come to the stage, you know what is that? What is that? Then you will understand. Till that time, it is a stupid philosophy. There's an experience by itself to hear God. And it is a birthright we have got, because we have a right to commune with him. It is only we who do not exercise it. Because we seem to be always telling him, you please hear what I say. You please see how well I dance. You see how well I walk. You see how well I perform. All the fine arts are covered there. All in the name of devotion. This is really the final state of constant remembrance of prayer. This is really the core factor of enlightenment. From my understanding of the master's instructions gleaned through books and through the intercommunions, I have found several factors that I characterize enlightenment. I understood it, that is the enlightenment, through the core of my being as a blessing splendor. The great joy of awareness of inseparableness with him is another factor in enlightenment. The awareness of this intimate proximity grants a courage and a confidence that is beyond all rational understanding. With all the handicaps of the physical and mental functioning, there is a competence almost intuitive in character, and more particularly in the work related to spiritual help to fellow brethren. Those of you who have read Path of Grace carefully would have found these are the stages I try to express in the rings of splendor. There is a sense of joy accompanying every act of seeing, knowing and doing, which acts in an almost instinctual nature. The equanimity that accompanies these acts has in it as though embedded the nature of perseverance, concentration, serenity, and analytical investigation. The balance of these factors is something that is usually not disturbed. These are the conditions of the privilege which are not disturbed, whatever you want. You can always analyze, you can understand with serenity what exactly is the composing factors. According to my understanding, there are actually 3 liberating trainings in the path of the master: the ethical self-discipline, the meditational practices, and wisdom. This is where I am adding. Some of you have added the ethical self-discipline and 10 commandments. compliance with 10 commandments. Without the moral discipline and wisdom, I may state that meditation alone is not enough for enlightenment. Because that is what the sannyasis say. Again, I retreat to some forest, sit somewhere, put up with all the inconveniences. I do long days and long years of tapas, meditation, and I get enlightened. A myth that has been propagated in this country for over 3,000 years. How to come out of it? Really, 3,000 years we have suffered. We have been slaves of that particular thought. Liberate yourself from that thought first. Then you get really liberated. If we ask how to undertake and accomplish in the path of enlightenment, and how to implement and practice these three trainings, we only need to study in depth our master's book, particularly the one relating to the 10 commandments he has given us to follow. Which is where I would make one more digression to say, yes, my thought is yours. We seem to be see. Absolutely, we seem to go in the same vibration. What more do we want to know? To say that we breathe Ramchandra consciousness. Be sure of that. Be aware that we are in this consciousness. Otherwise, your thought and my thought. Of course, I did not give you this paper earlier. Nor did you. But all of us said the same thing. That shows that we are living in this consciousness. We are not living in this body, in the sense of physical body, which anyway left. But we are living in this consciousness. This is what is the message. That is the practical guide in a book form. While other books give us the philosophy and is modified Raj Yoga systematically. The book Towards Infinity is a description of the path he has accomplished. He has taken to accomplish what he accomplished. And eventually, the same is the path we take to become just like him. I have tried to explain how the experience during meditation becomes our guiding spirit in the path, in the book Imperience becomes. True seekers would have noticed that in these 10 commandments, the steps to enlightenment, they would have also noticed that these are practices that suggest ways and means to enrich ourselves with wise livelihood and sagacious living. These practices are not solitary or contemplative in nature, but engage us fully in daily life through constant remembrance that will be considered as mindfulness and loving kindness expressed in all our actions and thoughts. We should note that spirituality is never learned through books. Master, by writing about this book, said, in this book I have endeavored to put up in words those spiritual secrets which have up till now come down from heart to heart. And also added that it is not only difficult, but almost impossible to express them adequately in words. One needs to live and understand the masters to understand the way. But it is almost impossible without having the proper attitude, as simply staying with the master never helps much. Physical proximity is good, but spiritual nearness is what is required. Love at work, compassion in action, spiritual and social activism, efficiency in discharge of duties, without undue attachment, as well as devoting ourselves to the welfare of the world, is an important part of spiritual practice in the system of the master. It is the practical wisdom that we observe in the master that really guides us. It's an age-old wisdom that we may not do great things, but can do small things in a great way. For that the path given to us by the master has been very efficacious for many seekers. The spirit of soul, or even spirit of every spiritual path without exception, is some kind of basic morality and self-discipline. If we wish to live wisely and contribute to a better world, we must try to become better people, authentic people, honest, straightforward, and decent, and more particularly serve all beings unselfishly. Practices such as truth-telling, non-harming, non-covetousness, non-jealousy, peacemaking, balancing, showing generosity, and engaging in selfless service are too often overlooked by many in their urgent and mad rush to gain grace of the master to achieve higher states of philosophies. They seem to ignore the fact that above mentioned characteristics are in reality offshoots of small gains in the path, and they need to be nourished and developed by sincere and conscientious efforts through constant remembrance. Sincere attention to them may even be called as yogas, and in fact, they enable us to connect with divinity on a firmer basis. They then reveal to us an inherent beauty and sacredness of life, which otherwise presents a picture of meaningless detachment. Yoga that means union, then only can be said to yoke us to the highest and deepest form of spirit in expression. Nowadays, whatever I am, I meditate and attend to purification process, and in a sense continue to live in constant remembrance. One thing I would like to say is constant remembrance is really sinking roots deep into the present moment and living in the present and not trying to think about the master or goal as an object of achievement in either the near or the farther future. If you can't realize God just now, you will never realize Him. He is not a goal to be achieved in a farther future. This is a point that I would like people to appreciate. Another important factor that I feel like sharing is that there are innumerable ways to worship and awaken. There are countless ways to kneel and kiss the ground, sang the Sufi poets Saint Rumi. Especially in our diverse, multicultural, pluralistic era, I feel we must be respectful and tolerant of many options people have discovered for pursuing spiritual development, even within each faith, not to mention among the different faiths. This has been our approach in ISRC, and I think we'll stick on to that. Moreover, because fanaticism can be very bad, moreover, we must be patient with ourselves and our karmic condition, and we should try to be more kind to ourselves and avoid indulging in expressions of guilt, shame, and self-bashing in the name of deep spiritual aspirations. Kindly note this sentence. I try to put this as clearly as possible, because many people suffer from this. Moreover, we must be patient with ourselves and our karmic condition, and we should try to be more kind to ourselves and avoid indulging in self-expressions of guilt, shame, and self-bashing in the name of deep spiritual aspiration. Surely we need to repent for the wrong, but we need not kneel so low as to totally lose our awareness of our individual endowment and end up in self-pity. God has given us enough. Okay, we come to this stage. We'll rectify. That courage is available when you have got the master in your heart. He's always there to guide you. Yes, I come to a mistake. Knowingly I come to a mistake. Yes, I agree. I repent for it. I'll try not to repeat it. I take the assistance of the divine in the whole process. But if you are going to suffer from guilt, shame, and self-bashing in the name of deep spiritual aspiration, saying all the time, I committed this mistake, I ought not to have done this, this is the wrong that I have done, that is the wrong that I have done. If you go on counting all your lapses, there will be no time for you to count the graces. Count the graces of God rather than the counting your lapses. See what are the things that you got rather than what are the things that you lost. You got so much from God. Think about it. This is the most positive angle in spirituality. Spirituality will not suffer that type of thing. Religion lives on that. Religion has to necessarily live on the self-passion for its survival. Then only you have got the stock of that. I come to you, you will wash off my sins. I will beat myself like tribal fellows, and I will come and put vati kanuka in your undi, aparada kanuka in your undi, all sorts of punishment you want to take. You cannot afford that. Why should you, whoever asked you to do that? A small commission, with a small mistake will come. Okay, this is fine. You want to commit one more mistake. And in the whole process, make the temple rich. For what? For what? For some other person to make business of it. The disgrace today that I understand that many of the temples are self-prasad. And for that, why should you donate anything to that? Anyway, they are selling it, they are businessmen. Why should you do it? This self-bashing is required in religion. That is what is to be avoided in spirituality. Self-pity is never accepted. Okay. We should learn to understand that the spiritual weapon of self-purification, intangible as it seems, is the most potent of moderating our internal and external environment, and to a large extent loosening the external shackles. We find the purification process works subtly and invisibly. It's an intense process, though it might often seem a weary and long-drawn process. It's a long-drawn process. We don't get clear overnight. It's a long-drawn process. It's an intense process. You can see its effect on it. Purification process used to us, may appear too simplistic. I'm sorry. Purification process given to us may appear too simplistic, but to practice this, we require faith. An unshakable rock-like faith that flinches from nothing. This is what is missing. You have got the capacity to cleanse yourself. No, that faith you lose. Then you try to say that this person will help me, that person will help me, and ultimately God will help. God has never asked you to do this samskara. Nor has he asked you to own up any one of them. And naturally, he will not take any responsibility. Of course, I am not confusing the system. The system is very clear. All of you have got a very good understanding of that. I will not go into that. Though I have many times stated that I am a slow learner, few agree with me. Otherwise, why should I be doing sadhana for over 4 decades? As Master has stated, if only we enter into his consciousness, he would deliver us within a few months. Maybe many of the aspirants in the past can gain such an entry into his consciousness. One of my sincere prayers has been this, that all should somehow sneak into his consciousness to solve the problem of their lives. Getting into Master's consciousness is tough enough, but living in the same is tougher. The purity of the consciousness of the Master does not permit any blemish in us of any kind. That is the real problem. Total vacuumization of ourselves is not possible. The goal of reaching the state of nothingness is always a never-ending journey to the infinite. Infinite humility is the real goal. That is the real enlightenment. We need to develop and prejudices in our relationships with co-born. Yet co-born, by which I mean all humanity, not your brothers and sisters. The entire expression of the divine that we are aware of. Development of fraternity is not possible through intellection. The lowliness of our nature needs to get established in heart, in every sense of the term. This is a prelude to accepting others' mistakes or lapses. If you don't know how low you are, you will never be in a position to accept others' mistakes. Only because we fail to accept our lowliness, the problems of rage, outbursts, insults, and prejudices arise. And these are the factors that need to get literally burnt into ashes and exhausted out of the system as smoke and vapor. Then and then only it becomes possible for us to develop greater tolerance and patience. Talking of compassion without these virtues of tolerance and patience is talking of the blue moon. Only when we understand that single factor of our acceptance into the path by the Master, which he expresses through the influx of his blessing splendor, that we call pranabhuti, do we make ourselves eligible for any progress. This is what I understand by the word yielding. Many aspirants ask me how to develop yielding attitude. How else can we do it than by recognizing our total unworthiness for the divine blessing that we have? If we, in the path of Satyapat, judge ourselves well and understand our real nature of unworthiness that gets remarkably worthy and noble, then it becomes possible to yield to Him and stop judging others. That is the dawn of real patience and tolerance. This learning is possible only through observing the Master than reading the books. When patience and tolerance is developed, the way to develop compassion becomes easy to tread. Karuna is a very special quality of the divine. The lowness of the other is not a matter of ridicule, but a matter of sincere awareness of our own deficiency. The flaw in others is a flaw in us. That is the key to move to universal consciousness, or Brahman Manda. For those who are trying to civilize themselves in the higher condition, please notice the key to move into universal consciousness of Brahman is to accept the flaw in others as your flaw. Because you are one. That is the way you can be in the higher. Accepting these handicaps of our real being is a training required to attend to cleaning of others. So the fellows here will know from the manual, this is what we stressed. You must accept the other man as a master and work on him. Any flaw in him is a flaw that you are seeing in a master who is the master already covered by something that please remove. If that is the attitude, then your work is great. Otherwise, it is what it is. We need to develop the capacity to evaluate others than judging others. Evaluate, recognize a problem, and solve the same is the way Master teaches when we observe. No book does this. Guru Kitabis can never reach this stage. Those of us who try to tell from the books will not be in a position to succeed in stabilizing themselves in the Brahma. You may know the system backwards and backwards. You may be in a position to quote the Gita from this side to that side, reading books, Magingita, telling on occasions, express your scholarliness or awareness of scripture. For what? If the other man's mistake is not accepted by you as your own, you cannot bring it ahead. When compassion sprouts in the core of our heart, the seeds of altruism are sown. A small digression on altruism before I end this talk. The Tamil classic Tirupura on the voice of God, I understand. Prosperity will abide with men of such a nature. I understand the spiritual prosperity of the crow as much as my forefathers, and I am sure most of you in this glorious land of Bharat will be same. One needs to practically know the ladder in spirituality, and one gains more by sharing than saving for the rainy day. What goes by the phrase practical wisdom is not many times compatible with real wisdom. The laws and codes of the lower human nature are different from the laws and codes of the higher human nature. Regressive tendencies and progressive tendencies are in fact the same line. The moral code of Shukra or Shukraniti is entirely different from Brihaspati Niti or the moral code of Brihaspati. We know the former is the code of conduct of Asuras and the latter that of the Devas. No wonder there has been confusion in the minds of many who do not differentiate between these two sides. But it is worth noting, both are spiritual masters. That is the problem. One gave this, the other gave that. For that population. For their population. And if you don't know which population you belong, as Krishna asked you to understand first, do you belong to Deva Sampatti All this belongs to Asura Sampati. First of all, if you know, then you can apply that logic. But we do not seem to be knowing anything about ourselves. Excuse me here. We know here in this gathering, we know that we are in the day of sympathy. When I said we, I am talking about the general public, whom we are also facing events. But let me clarify this. Otherwise, you and I will not be sitting here. If you do not belong to the clan of God, we will not be sitting. We will be doing many other things. Which side to extend our choice and seeing the masters, one can decide. The commandments of the master is his masterpiece. I have found that reading the book is being with my master in every sense of the word. I hear his voice as audibly as I hear the voices of others here and now. The sound reverberates in the mind, and I lapse many times into a state of deep contemplation as if I am by his side. His advice on the book on commandments, read it again and again. You will find each word and each sentence commendable, and when you begin to understand, I am sure you will be greatly pleased. I am sure you are. There are no important sentences and unimportant sentences in this book. In the brackets, 5 others. It's a virtue. That's what he says. Virtuous living is the key, and there is no virtue greater than the understanding that is infinitely insignificant, and master is infinitely significant. As I've expressed above, getting into master's consciousness is tough enough, but living in the same is tougher. It is obvious when we live in his consciousness, we have none of our own. I pray that this may happen soon, and we live and move in a world of non-possessive abundance. We have a lot of riches. Only thing is we don't possess it. World has got it. Enormous. Vasudha is the name of the land. There's got everything. These are Ratnakarma. It is available. Everything is here. One needs treatment. One has no reason to shun the earth and run after the moon. It is obvious that we can live like that only when we make a conscious choice to be with the master. Meditation is just one aspect of the problem solving. As far as my knowledge and understanding goes, meditation on the heart imparts a basic message that we should maintain the delicate balance of the system. First in the individual, then in the cosmic, and thereafterwards in the paracosmic growth. In the three realms, three different laws apply, but the principle is the same. Be aware of the insignificance of individual being and the absolute need to maintain the law of balance in each plane. One more factor that we learn is that the progressive reduction of self-awareness and simultaneous awareness of the inviolability of the divine law or reduction. The most troublesome aspect of meditation is the curtain of thoughts that we reckon with. This can be a thick one or a thin one, colored one or colorless one. But every one of us faces the curtain as an obstacle in realizing the true nature of self. This wheel of thought first should be recognized as present, and then one needs to keep it in. This realization is often missed. Famous saints and seekers have appealed to the divine for help, as we find in the songs of Tyagaraja, Tera Tiyaga Raga, and Annamaya, Pannagapu Domasera, Paiki. These are the two songs that I remember. Many more must be there in many other languages. There's a wheel. There's a wheel covering the divine, covering the inner heart, always. Somebody has to do it. Until and unless this is realized, one wanders ceaselessly in the mind, fixated in thoughts and forms, and trying to make it work, and wondering why it does not. The missing is neither cultural nor social. The fact that discontent is global, irrespective of the subject matter and geographical location, is enough proof of this being of nations. This civilized world keeps looking in sophisticated ways to fix it when ideas and circumstances fail. In the present day, we have many salesmen for ideas, methods, drugs, and enlightenment too. And they put in enormous effort to the educators as to how to create the right circumstances, both legitimate and otherwise, to achieve our ends. But the fact remains that people keep seeking always something more new, and the solution, whatever, is not accepted. This is a problem of majority of the people in the beginning also. We don't so easily accept the meditation method. We've got other things in our mind. This exposes our insatiable quest. Please ask yourself whether have you ever known anyone who has entered this seeking and come to rest in any area of activity or thinking, except in the case of masters of wishes. Even the best possible circumstances always change. Ideas are limited, and drugs wear off and have side effects. All this is dubious. A conversation with a dear friend has brought to light a preconceived notion that many entertain, and I share my knowledge with you here. This notion or belief is that the mind is a gauntlet that is impossible. This was understood by Babuji in his Reality and Dawn. This idea that governs so many is not true. Masters asserted that mind is the very instrument we have to use to reach our goal, and it plays monkey only in undisciplined persons. The wheel of thought is so thin that all one has to do is look at it and it disappears. Do you know this? When any meditation you have got some thought, you try to observe that it's lost. Have you observed it? Another idea comes, that goes. You try to catch it, it's simply possible. Look at it, it is lost. We seem to be Bhasma, right? Look at it, it's lost. Try to catch a thought and you will be unable to hold on to it. Just try and you will fail. This is what many persons complain when they say they have too many thoughts that are disturbed. They all disappear like dreams in the morning, and nothing you can do will stop. This is what the Abhyasis tell when they say they are not able to recall the thoughts and they feel they miss a lot of them. This is due to the habit of identifying oneself with the thoughts, the alleged thinker, or what the thoughts are about, what you call you, and then struggle as that falls apart, which it will in any way, sooner or later. What can be said here is that doubt is a fundamental trick of the mind. It is the flip side of the faith. And both faith and doubt need belief to exist. In other words, doubt and faith are all just nothing more than thought. Neither has anything to do with who you truly are. Doubt and faith are not clarity. They are both the mind's pathetic substitute for the absence of clarity. When my friend begins to doubt that he and other normal people can never get out of the rut of mind, he is reinforcing things that are untrue. So this friend of mine is not an atheist. First, that anyone not found in the mind is higher or gifted in some unusual way. This is one of the myths they have got. Second, that the mind is a powerful. Truthfully, it only has the power that one endows it within the mind. You give, that's what Babuji said, a God, an idea of a God. You give the power to the pieces. It has no power on its own. It is we with it. Mind is a self-appointed despot. Right? It has appointed itself. Third, that what goes on in the mind actually stands as real. These are the notions we have. It is but proper that we should test these assumptions. If we are in fact who we think we are, then consider who we thought we were years ago, or even yesterday. At that time, we had the same confidence in those ideas, and we have in the ones today, Yet, they do not exist anymore. In fact, life has shown us that they were utterly false. We may think that the ideas about us today are more accurate than in the past because we have more knowledge, and the fact is that today's sense of self is made of exactly the same substance that it was years ago, and that substance is thought. Therefore, the sense of self cannot be any more real today than it was in the past. Thought cannot be who we are. Mind is like any other part of the organism with specific functions, and it need not be deferred to beyond those functions which are useful. This is one of the fallacies of many people. That is why you should understand Indian psychology. Buddhi has been considered as a part of the Antarkarana and is not confused with the soul. Mind is not me. Mind is an instrument I have. Yes, the eye is an instrument I have. Hands are an instrument I have. But this seems to have, that as I told you, the despotic character of trying to say, I am the person. Mind is capable of saying that. The wheel of thought is so delicate that if you look at it directly, it dissolves before our eyes. The unfortunate predicament of human condition is that the perceiving of reality through the wheel of thought distorts everything that is perceived. This is called delusion, maya or samsara. The problem gets worsened for all those who dwell in the virtual images of the small and big screen, and surely the computers. The more we get accustomed to the virtual plane, the more further we move in reality, and poor mind need not be accused. This is again my appeal against people who spend a lot of time TV, with videos, with cinemas, and unproductive computer activities. I should add that unproductive, because there seems to be quite a lot of productive activity. But computers, as are given on the internet, are quite damaging. Damaging to your soul. Okay, one more information that I would like to share. One gentleman who had perhaps the misfortune of seeing the TV in Mexico, there should be some board where that particular film on narration was given, where the women, the children at the age of 4 or 5, female children, were lifted and they have been put into the most ancient occupation in the world. And people have been, it seems, indulging into all sorts of not only carnal desires, but actual what we call it, bad treatment to them, and being unkind to them, harsh to them, cruel to them. We suppose say, okay, you have seen this thing. The point is, this person is a grihastha. He also has got the carnal desires. He knows he's an young man. He knows his problems, but the mind has come into the picture now. It has identified him and his legitimate relationship with his spouse with the unfortunate events that he has seen in the TV, and has got into a state of self-pity. Have I committed a crime? Am I doing crime? What is this? This is a product of one, bad viewing, which could have been avoided. Number two, being dictated by the sannyasi ethics. 3, allowing your mind all sorts of imaginations. You are not all that bad. By being a good husband, you are not bad. Getting progeny is your right, is your duty, as it has been enshrined. In the Hindu Dharma, that is enshrined, as is your duty. So the idea of looking at the relationship, conjugal relationship of the spouses, as if it's a sin, is a byproduct of that useless religion called Christianity. It is not Hinduism. It is not native to our land. We need not be apologetic about what we are legitimately asked to do under Dharma. And there is no way by which God can express without these conjugal relationships. Why it has been considered as sin is anybody's guess. It's not sin. Out of proportion, everything is sin. Out of proportion, everything is bad. It hit him hard from an angle where he never expected, and that came from the small screen. Lock, stock, and barrel, they deserve to be thrown to dust, but nobody will care for it. But a day will come when sanity will rule and insanity will quit human minds. Perception, we know, is not who we are either, as some of the modern thinkers hope. Because now one of the worst problems of modern philosophy is to think that perception is what we are. Mind is what we are is over, that period is over. Now some people have thought perception, because without perception there is no mind. If you go blind or born without eyes, the seer is still there, without windows to the world. This is my answer. Those people who say the perception is the man must answer this question. What is the source from which even perception comes from when the eyes are gone? It is my understanding that this source is the original prana from which all mind arises, and also the changing views of the world we develop, the perceptions. Once we realize this insight, immediately we recognize the outside. This is our nature, and irrespective of the degree of suffering or enjoyment, the reality remains untouched by those responses. Whether we are in the realm of the plane of the limited self, or have moved into the rarer realms of the cosmic or paracosmic planes, this is true. Prana alone exists. It is worth investigating this in the core of our being sincerely. It's an enterprise for freedom in the real sense of the term, and without a true inquiry, there will be no enjoying of that freedom. That is our nature. We need to meditate in the silence of our being that persists in the midst of the most tormented or pleasured or any state of mind. Because people give me excuses saying that they're busy with the marriage, therefore they can't meditate, or they were busy with some demise in the house, and therefore they can't meditate. Both the occasions, I don't think it works. When we do meditate on the divine light without luminosity and touch the core of reality and expression, that is our heart, we see that it is untouched by both pleasure and pain. We see who we truly are and then enjoy our freedom. Many persons are in the habit of finding reasons and excuses for not living this freedom. And surely the masters were not very appreciative of this lapse in responsibility for one's own happiness. And that is why our master had to write a small and brief note on determination, which we publish in the publication. I shall try to share some more thoughts on how meditation is not enough. During meditations, one of the factors we should appreciate is that there is enough inertia of mind. Looking at the problem from a new perspective, we find that the highest state that can arise in the mind is the mind's ability to see its own limitations. Master had to many times tell me, and also on certain occasions warn me, of the intellectual approach in sadhana. It is not that by that time I was not aware of the divine possibilities of my little self, and to be fair to my master, I had considerable recognition of my mental powers. But understanding the limitations is, from my understanding of spirituality, far more greater than mere recognition of mind's powers. Because of this understanding that arose in me, I consider myself a blessed person. The mind can never take us beyond the mind, but the mind can recognize this fact very accurately. You can understand. To be able to understand what the mind can do, and then to understand what the mind cannot do, is what is attempted to explain here. I found enough reasons for feeling blessed. When I understood there is no deception, because this is a no mind condition. The head is gone, And that is the great freedom. When I found myself not working hard with mind, I found that all that I am left with is truth, because I found the truth does not change as a result of my effort. The truth is always true. Nobody can change it. Truth naked is the reality that I encounter, and there is no deluding in this, no mind playing. This is so simple. It is no wonder I missed it for decades in spite of Master's guidance. Many may not understand me when I say that we have to work hard to get delusion. Delusion is not a natural state. It requires rationalization, fantasy, denial, and various other forms of artful self-deception to essentially rewrite and replace what actually is, namely our small identity. When I started thinking about the autobiography of our master and found how unmixed it is from any type of fantasy or imagination, I understood how hard I have been working to find a meaning to my individuality, mixed with real and contrived notions about myself, and was desperately creating a story of my life. This lesson in insignificance is a blessing splendor of the master. The desire to write our story is an odd one, and yet the number of biographies and autobiographies that were written and continue to be written is so large, we need to examine what it is that they try to express. I find that this is one of the most intimately and closely held desires of any reasonably successful person. The awareness of the all-pervasive presence of the prana should make any sane person avoid such an adventure in misinformation. One more caution before I end this paper. In any attempt at sharing personal experiences in sadhana, there is a peculiar type of ego factor to what the speaker is saying, and the more disturbing the truth is better. More disturbing the truth is better. The truth is written or spoken into a forum where it will be recognized and agreed with, usually because it is self-evident. This is how we always talk about ourselves. We committed this mistake, we committed that mistake, we came to the board of the master, we therefore thought of it. Now this self-expression, confession, grants him certain amount of authority, of competence. And then we start then hearing, yes, Solo must be telling the truth, and then he follows all stopping. Yes, this is a mental make. I have gone through such something. I wouldn't mention any one of them. This is the nature of the report submitted by about one's lapses or shortcomings or sins of there are certainly a lot of shocking truths in the world, and them. But that is becomes the starting point of the greatness of the speaker or writer, and one's individuality thus gets established on firm foundation. Once an emotional truth is spoken, a truth that most people would not have spoken, there's an opening in the body and minds of the listeners. That opening is a trust. The expectation that is sought to be set up by the author is simply that the next thing this person says or writes will be true, because the last thing he said was obviously true. And in that opening, the so-called authority has an opportunity to say anything he wants, because the opening is there. The opportunity to inculcate even the most well-intentioned idealism writes as the truth into the body mind of the listener, and most of the time goes unnoticed. This I added only to persuade aspirants in the path not to try to impress others with their personal experiences. Two things are achieved thereby. We serve our interest in avoiding that particular brand of ego, the tiger in the garb of goat, and the aspirants of delusion. This is quite a price for the small effort we put in. The distance between insignificance and nothingness is quite a leap. The real state at this stage is spiritual. At this stage, in spiritual life is jumping the ocean with neither the hands nor legs nor wings. We are just cosmic and parasitic dust particles with no individuality and bare essential identity. Thank you. This is what I wanted to share.
Beautiful paper. So many secrets, or so many interesting points to understand and then put it into practice. We read it long back. It's so thought-provoking and so helpful for our practice, actually. Basically, he's talking about insignificance. And he says, if you know our insignificance, it's a blessing, he says.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. We'll meet next Sunday. If anybody wants to comment or talk about it.
I think just like 10 Commandments, we should read this topic quite often.
Quite often, yes. There's so many interesting points which will help us, actually. Okay, again, he has emphasized on 10 Commandments again and again.
Right.
So we'll continue to study that. Okay then, Prasad, thank you.